There's a certain kind of person who doesn't make a big deal out of their birthday. No countdown, no plans, no expectations. When the day comes, they go to work. They run errands. They live like nothing special is happening. And when someone asks, "Why don't you celebrate your birthday?" they usually smile and say something simple. It's just another day. But that's rarely the full truth, because birthdays are never just about a date. They're about attention, they're about being remembered, they're about being paused for, even briefly, in someone else's life. And when someone treats that day like it doesn't matter, the reason usually isn't random. It's learned, quietly, over years, without anyone noticing. Let's start with the most common pattern I see. Some people stopped caring about their birthday because caring once didn't feel safe. Early birthdays were inconsistent. Sometimes people showed up, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes there was excitement, sometimes there was silence. And silence on a day that's supposed to mean something leaves a mark. Not the dramatic kind, the subtle kind. The kind where your mind learns expectation creates pain. So it adjusts. It doesn't get angry, it doesn't complain, it simply lowers the bar. The next year you don't talk about it as much. The year after that, you stop reminding people. Eventually, you stop expecting anything at all. And from the outside, it looks like confidence. But inside, it's protection. Because hoping feels vulnerable, and vulnerability, when unmet, hurts more than indifference. This is why some people genuinely feel calmer when no one acknowledges their birthday. There's no tension, no waiting, no checking their phone. The day passes cleanly. No emotional risk. But here's what most people miss. If someone truly doesn't care, they don't notice when others forget. But many who say they don't care notice everything. They remember who reached out. They remember who didn't. They just don't react, because reacting would mean admitting the day still has weight. Now, that's one side of it. But not everyone who ignores their birthday is protecting old disappointment. Some people are just mentally exhausted, not temporarily, chronically. Life has been heavy for so long that the brain no longer marks time the way it used to. Days blur together, weeks disappear, years move faster than they should. In this state, special occasions don't feel special. They feel like interruptions. When the mind is constantly occupied with responsibility, survival, stability, pressure, it starts prioritizing function over feeling. What needs to be done? What can't wait? What problem is next? Celebration doesn't answer those questions, so the brain pushes it aside, not out of sadness, out of necessity. This is why some people genuinely forget their own birthday until someone reminds them, not because it doesn't matter, but because their mental bandwidth is already full. When life becomes a long stretch of handling things, celebration feels almost unrealistic, like something for a different version of you. Then there's another pattern that often gets misunderstood. Some people don't care about their birthday because they don't need external confirmation to feel solid. These are emotionally independent people. Their sense of worth doesn't spike when they're praised, and it doesn't collapse when they're ignored. They don't measure themselves by attention, so a birthday doesn't carry the same emotional charge. If someone celebrates them, it's appreciated, but not required. If no one does, it doesn't feel personal. Their identity isn't refreshed once a year. It's steady. But here's where confusion happens. From the outside, this looks the same as emotional shutdown. Same behavior, different inner experience. One feels peaceful, the other feels guarded. You can usually tell the difference by asking one simple question. If someone surprised you on your birthday, truly, would it feel warm or uncomfortable? Comfort usually means independence. Discomfort usually means the mind had already decided not to need. Now, let's talk about something most people rarely admit. Birthdays don't just test whether people remember you. They test whether people choose you, without being prompted. No reminders, no effort from you. Just memory and intention. And when that doesn't happen consistently, the mind adapts. It starts pulling meaning away from the day, because measuring how much you matter once a year can be emotionally expensive. So instead of facing that measurement, some people opt out entirely. They treat the day like nothing, so nothing can be lost. There's also another layer here. For some people, birthdays aren't ignored because of the past, but because of the future. Birthdays mark time, and time asks uncomfortable questions. Am I where I thought I'd be? Why does this year feel heavier? Why did this number arrive so fast? Celebrating the day forces awareness of change, of aging, of missed milestones, of expectations that didn't happen. So ignoring the birthday becomes a way of avoiding reflection, not consciously, emotionally. Now, here's something subtle but important. Have you noticed that people who don't celebrate their own birthday often go out of their way for others? They remember dates, they show up, they send messages. That's not accidental. That's a pattern formed early. They learned how meaningful it feels to be remembered because they know how quiet it feels not to be. So they give what they once hoped for. Over time, that turns into an identity. I'm not someone who needs attention. But not needing can slowly turn into not receiving. And the mind adapts to that too. Eventually, even kindness directed at them can feel unfamiliar. Now, here's the part most people don't like to hear. Some people don't celebrate their birthday because the day feels emotionally undefined. It doesn't feel happy, it doesn't feel sad, it just feels empty. And emptiness is uncomfortable to sit with. So treating it like a normal day avoids that feeling altogether, because celebration forces emotion, and neutrality feels safer. This is why the same behavior, not celebrating a birthday, can come from completely different internal states. For one person, it's peace. For another, it's protection. For another, it's exhaustion. The mistake people make is assuming it means the same thing for everyone. It doesn't. No one randomly stops caring about being acknowledged. The mind always has a reason. Sometimes that reason is wisdom. Sometimes it's fatigue. Sometimes it's adaptation. And sometimes it's all three at once. So if you're someone who treats your birthday like just another day, don't rush to label it. Don't romanticize it. Don't criticize it. Just observe it. Because the way you relate to that one day quietly reflects how you learned to relate to people, expectation, and your own sense of worth. And understanding that is far more revealing than any celebration ever could be.